Thank you.
Actually, I want to sit there. I thought that was my water. It's not my water. It's your water. Yes. It's right now. And I still have water in my bag.
Yeah, good morning everyone. My name is Agus Rayuda. I'm from Udayana University, Indonesia, and I'm working this paper with two of my colleagues in Cat Business School, Jawarside and Abraham. I would like to talk a paper titled Identifying a Relapse or Identifying a Goal, two types of post-training transfer interventions. Basically, this paper talks about the relationship between post-training transfer interventions and transfer of training. So, these are two important concepts in the training and development area. However, based on our review, we found many problems inside this relationship. For example, lack of mechanism explanation and lack of information on the differential effectiveness between relapse prevention and goal setting. So we try to overcome this problem by proposing a mediating model that may answer the relative effectiveness between transfer intervention tools and may mediate or elucidate one potential mechanism between post-training transfer interventions and transfer of training. So before we go further, I would like to explain contents of this presentation. First of all, of course, the background of the paper, what the transfer of training is, why the significance for the training and development area, what the post-training transfer intervention is, and why it is the key for the transfer of training, and what kind of post-training transfer interventions that are included in this paper. The second one, I will explain state of the art or the literature review in the post-training transfer intervention literature. And based on the literature review, I would like to show you the problems that still lingers in the literature. In the fourth point, I would like to present our conceptual model. This is developed based on problems that we find or that we identify from the literature review, and then followed by the theoretical foundations that underlies the model that we developed. In the sixth point, I would like to talk about the propositions that I developed and then potential contributions that our model may have. And the last point will be some conclusions and recommendations for future research. Move to the first sections, the background. So what the transfer of training is. I think it is a famous concept, but a bit underexplored in the human resource management field of study. So transfer of training is the extent to which the employees or the individuals or the trainees can use their newly trained skills from the training or learning content to each job. It is very important in the training and development area because if employee fails to transfer, not only do they lose in terms of individual development, but organizations too lose on their investment in learning and management development. So if the trainees want to experience the most or the benefits of the training sessions, then they must transfer or they must use their newest trained skills to their daily activity. In order to enhance the transferability of the trainees, many scholars argue that post-training transfer interventions is key to the positive transfer training. Post-training is after training, and training intervention is like an additional or supplemental strategy that intend to help the trainees to use their training skills to the job. There are two kinds of post-training transfer interventions. First is relapse prevention, and the second is goal setting. Relapse prevention is an approach that teaches trainees to identify and overcome potential threats that hinder trainees transferring their newly learned skills. Potential threats can be time pressure, can be supervisor's pressure, lack of opportunity to use the new skills, or probably lack of proper infrastructure inside the organization. That is potential threats that may push the trainees back to their old skill and totally ignore their new skills, not to use the training skill. And the second one is goal setting, an approach that urges trainees to develop a set of specific, challenging targets so it can drive trainees transferring the training skills. So of course, setting a goal is a powerful direction for the trainees to use their newly trained skill. So I have explained the transfer of training definition and post-training transfer interventions, and I explained the kind of post-training transfer interventions that I use in this paper. The second point is the question of how post-training transfer intervention influence transfer of training. Based on our review from 23 related studies from 1986 to 2011, we can categorize the literature into 4 themes. First of all, is the direct relationship between post-training, transfer intervention, and transfer of training. So they assume that once the trainees got the relapse prevention or got the goal setting, then the level of transfers will be changed. Straightforward. The second thing is the influence between transfer interventions and training characteristics, such as their reaction to the learning, their motivation learning, their self-confidence, or training satisfaction. The third theme is about the mediating role of the training characteristics in the relationship between transfer interventions and transfer of training. Basically, the studies in this third theme explain about how transfer interventions create a value to the characteristics of the training, where the change in these characteristics change the level of transfer of training. And the fourth theme is the interaction or the moderating role of work environment and training characteristics in the relationship. For example, one study from Bob and Hutchins in 1999 stated that relapse prevention approach, if it is interacted with an unsupportive work environment, can result in the high level of transfer of training. So it's not only supportive work environment, but unsupportive work environment interact with relapse prevention can result into a positive transfer of training. So this is the state of the art of the literature in the post-training transfer interventions. Although it clearly seems that post-training transfer intervention can influence transfer of training, but we identify 4 problems in the literature. First of all, lack of mechanism explanation of how transfer interventions are linked to training transfer through training attitudes or through training attitudes. So based on our review, only 4 studies that explain this mediating mechanism out of 23 studies. So this is a key concept because the relationship between transfer interventions and transfer of training is not straightforward. It's not unmoderated, but we believe it is moderated. Once the training got transfer interventions tools, then of course there is a slight change in their attitudes, their characteristics on the training, which can be influence the transfer of training. The second is lack of conclusiveness of whether relapse prevention is an appropriate tool to help trainees enhance their transferability. In the literature, there are 2 types of relapse prevention. The original one consists of 7 steps tools or 7-step strategies, and the modified one. From the modified relapse preventions, we found out that there is an inconclusiveness in results. Half of the studies said that or supported the influence, one part of the studies did not support the relationship, and the rest just show partial. The third one problem is the current literature fails to provide clear guidance concerning which goal enhanced transfer in management development program. Again, there are 6 types of goal settings where there is no objective evidence on the superiority of one type of goal setting approach over the other, and no clear strategy. The last one is the lack of comparative studies between relapse prevention and goal setting. So again, we found out that there are only 4 studies that compare and contrast between relapse prevention and goal setting, although they are very important for the transfer of training. Based on this problem, we built this conceptual model. We include the original relapse prevention model and proximal plus distal goal setting, which are illustrated as having a positive effect on the transfer of training directly or indirectly via the readiness to change and autonomous motivation to transfer. So hopefully, this model is expected to overcome the problems in the literature in several ways. We put the proximal plus distal goal setting because this is the only goal setting approach or tools that accommodate the feedback mechanism. And then we include readiness to change and autonomous motivation to transfer at the center of our mediating model. So hopefully this mediating model will fit into the body of knowledge that we show or I showed in the figure 1. What underlies our belief that these constructs in the model is connected with each other? I use a social cognitive theory to explain the model. So, social cognitive theory is a human psychosocial functioning that can be understood in triading the principle causation. It starts from the connection between environment, cognitive process, and the behavior. We begin by highlighting the role of environmental stimuli. So instead of playing the moderating role, we believe that environment may provide like a potential triggers to the cognitive process, and then after that we will provide will influence the behavior of the trainees, which subsequently will influence their action, the transfer of training. We include the trans-theoretical model of change to explain the relation between readiness to change and autonomous motivation to transfer, and their role as a mediator in the relationship. We built like 12 specific propositions from the model. So the first major proposition is the implementation of post-training transfer intervention positively contribute to the enhancement of training attitudes. We built further 5 specific propositions based on these major propositions. And the second proposition is high level in training attitudes will lead trainees to transfer their newly trained skill to the workplace. The third major proposition is post-training transfer interventions, enhance transfer of training directly or indirectly through training attitudes. And fourth is we argue that proximal plus distal goal setting enhance training attitudes and contributes more to the transfer of training than relapse prevention. So why the model that we built is important? We believe that our model may provide a potential contribution to the literature. First of all, it introduces the importance of trainees' readiness to change and autonomous motivation to transfer into the current body of knowledge visualized in figure 1. This may broaden our understanding of how individual attitudes play out in response to an intervention and how such attitudes transform the response into positive transform behavior. Second, our model has potential to elucidate a new mechanism through which RP or proximal plus distal goal setting affects transfer of training. So it may help scholars to restructure the large and diverse body of knowledge may assist them to better understand the underlying logic of how and why the transfer intervention activities influence transfer of training via value creation in training attitudes. Third, our model might be beneficial to the practitioner in terms of evaluating what interventions that work in what context in order to promote training effectiveness in organizations. Also, it may inform them whether they should use relapse prevention or proximal plus distal goal-setting transfer interventions. Finally, our model may help future research to have a theoretical basis to explain the mechanism of training transfer interventions and thereby providing new ways of examining the transfer of training phenomena. So in conclusion, understanding the process of how post-training transfer interventions are linked to training transfer through various training activities is important. It is because researchers and practitioners may know much about the process through which these interventions create value to the training and the transferability. And then moreover, including RP or relapse prevention and goal setting into one model may overcome the difficulties in distinguishing different transfer intervention tools. In other words, this model may help trainees to choose the appropriate transfer interventions, whether they need to identify their relapse or the potential traits that hinders their transferability, or setting a set of goals that provide them guidance to transfer their newly trained skills to the job. Our recommendations is hopefully future research could test our mediation model in the empirical context, whether by using both quantitative and qualitative approach and prove whether this model could overcome the problems in the literature. Thank you very much for your attention.
Questions for Agus?
Can you go back to your model?
Yes.
Please.
Yeah.
Wait, one more over? Okay, yeah, that's the one. I really liked the inclusion, I'm sorry, I really like the inclusion of the trans-theoretical model of change. That was a really good inclusion. I have a question for you. So in 2004, Deshawn and Gillespie wrote a paper about the motivated action theory of goal orientation, where they talk about different hierarchical structurings of goals. I'm wondering how that might apply to your idea about goal setting and how goal setting is linked to training characteristics. Can we encourage people to set goals that are in line with some of the higher order goals they have, and might that influence their ability to follow through with the training, with the kind of ideas that you've laid out here?
For this model, I think we could add we could add it into this model about the hierarchy.
Right. Well, you've got it right over there with the proximal versus the distal goal setting.
So based on the proximal goal setting, and then they can get a feedback from their supervisor or from their colleagues, and then based on that, they will modify or probably enhance their distal goal setting. Probably it may enhance their training attitudes. So actually this readiness to change. So once the trainee arrive in this stage, in the preparation stage, then actually they can influence their actions, which is the part of this transfer of training. Actually, the trans-theoretical model of change consists of one side consists of attitudes and one side consists of behaviors, right? So actually, for this attitudes, is only this part: pre-contemplation, contemplation, and preparation. This part, and then when they move to action in the skill generalization, and when they move to the maintenance, which is maintenance of their new skills in the job, then it will move to the other part of the trainee's behavior, the other part of social cognitive theory. So I did we proposed a modification to the theory, social cognitive theory, because between personal factor and the behavior, it assumes that there is a slight change, in their attitudes. But actually, it's still an assumption that is not empirically tested into the empirical context. So that's why I put it here, the training activities before they influence the behavior.
So I've always thought of goal setting, goal setting as being an important part of relapse prevention training, right? In terms of setting these actionable goals, some people call it self-management, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So I just wonder, how does, obviously relapse prevention has other components that go beyond goal setting, but I'm wondering, how distinguishable do you think they will ultimately be in terms of their effects? Because in your other model, they are having a lot of, you see that it's having a lot of overlapping effects.
Yes, you're right. Actually, they started from the same group, social learning theory, in which relapse prevention, of course, consists of goal setting. Setting a goal of what skills that they want to transfer before they identify what kind of relapse. But I believe, and in our review as well, there are many studies that combine the relapse prevention and goal setting. But based on our review, goal setting doesn't care about the relapse or the potential risk. Goal setting approach or goal setting tools just push the trainees to set a goal without caring about what the potential threat that they might face in the work environment. But the relapse prevention care about that potential threats. So that will be a cut-off point when you test it into the empirical context, when we distinguish between those tools. So the one care about more focuses on the traits, and the other one, goal setting, doesn't care about the potential traits. They just set the goal, challenging, specific, and probably difficult for the trainees, and then try to reach the target. Whatever happens in the environment, they just don't realize or they don't care about it. On the other hand, for the relapse prevention, before they set a goal, they care about the potential threats first. They care about what the supervisor's reaction if we put these new skills, what the kind of task that they will face when they put their new skills into their empirical or their daily activity. I think that is the cut-off point of this course. Yes.
Two things. Since you got autonomous motivation to transfer in there, do you know that there's a paper that someone put out on autonomous motivation to transfer?
Yeah.
Gegenfurtner? I can give you the reference. Okay, cool. So that's one thing. The other one I was just curious about what sort of relapse prevention interventions or type of schemes do you think of when you operationalize your model, when you go into researching it?
So for the relapse preventions,
if you already do think about it.
we intend to go with the original relapse prevention. So there are two types of relapse prevention. The original one consists of 7 steps that built by Marx 1982, and the modified relapse preventions where many scholars reduce the steps into only identify potential threats and develop strategies to overcome the threats. Based on our review, the modified relapse prevention ones show an inconclusive results, but less researchers test the original relapse preventions. So if we go to the if I go to the empirical potential, probably I will go with the original relapse preventions one because it's more stronger and it's more complete than the modified. And based on our review, the original relapse prevention one show a more consistent results than the modified one. So the 7 steps of the relapse prevention. And the goal setting as well, I put a specific proximal versus distal goal setting, like a short-term goal and long-term goal. So it is the only goal setting that provides a feedback mechanism. Learning goal, assigned goal, or participative goal setting don't provide a feedback mechanism. So in here, between the proximal and distal, of course, there will supervisor or the trainers or the colleagues will come into the scene and then give a feedback about our performance in reaching the shutter group before we set or modify the distal. So yeah, that's the type of specific interventions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So are there any other kind of general comments, questions?